Hey there, and welcome back to Dakota News Now. It is now time for another edition of Owning Your Outdoors, and joining me as always is Doug Schroeder from Lewis. And Doug, it's been a little hot lately, and some plants don't really like that, do they?
No, very hot. With the increased heat and winds and so forth, you have to amend how you take care of your plants if you want them to thrive and be successful.
And the wind and the heat both contribute to drying out soil, and obviously water is necessary for plants to grow.
Right. Yeah, you cannot assume that one time a day watering for a plant is going to be sufficient. I always use the old finger test. I check my plants. I even lift the container and see if it still feels heavy. But if I feel moisture down in the soil, I might let it wait a little bit. But attention to plants is very important.
So what's the first thing we should do if a plant we think is starting to dry out with the soil?
If you have a plant that dries out with the soil, you'll see it start parting from the pot itself. That's a bad sign. What I do is take a tub, fill it with water, set your plant in it, let it gradually hydrate, and come back to life. Let that soil start getting rehydrated.
And that soil will just keep pulling in the moisture as it needs, right?
Right. And Aaron, remember, with increased watering, we need to remember the fertilizer.
Right. Once
a week. If you're going to be running that much water through an annual, you need to fertilize once a week just to keep it blooming.
Basically like vitamins for your plant.
Yes, exactly. They need hydration, but they also need nutrients.
So what are some other tips that we can do? Increasing the size of the container, right?
Right. I did this a week ago, had a plant very similar to this. Put it in a larger container. With a larger container, you have larger soil mass. With larger soil mass, it stays cooler. And the plant will thrive. Once again, fertilizer, deadheading. Deadheading is very important to go in there, and if there's problems with the plant, cut it out, deadhead it, replant it, fertilize it, and you'll have a great plant.
Because that means that there's more water going to more important parts of the plant and not necessarily dying parts.
Right, exactly. So yeah, just a little bit of TLC and you'll have beautiful plants all summer long.
So now that we're getting kind of into the heart of summer, July and August, the dog days, would you recommend maybe watering a little more, making sure you're doing the finger test?
Yes, I would recommend, you wouldn't leave a pet 3 or 4 days and go out of town.
Yeah.
If you're going to leave your plants, see if a neighbor will water them or shade them, water them well and shade them. Do the best you can to keep them hydrated. If you ignore them, you'll see failure, and you'll be back to having to deal with starting over and deadheading and getting it back to normal. And
then visually, if the plant looks like it's kind of wilting a little bit, or if it's looking a little down, then probably a good indication you need to start going. Right.
And also, I recommend, because I had this situation recently, someone thought that their plant was dehydrated. Well, what had happened was the holes in the bottom had become plugged. So they kept putting water in the container and actually were overwatering. So a couple of different things. Check out, make sure the soil's moist, make sure you have good drainage.
All right, Doug, any other tips as we get into the dog days of summer?
Nope. With a little extra TLC, you'll have beautiful looking plants all summer long.
All right, Doug, thank you for all the tips that you've given us this morning. We're going to have all this information online at dakotanewsnow.com after the show. Make sure you stick around, though, where we have Fastcast coming up here in a few more minutes.